Hello, everybody. Welcome to another segment of Market Masters. We got a whole lot to talk about today. And I don't know if what's going on is probably one of the greatest opportunities we have in the short term, or if there's actually something to worry about. My gut tells me that it's the first one because, as Kirk will explain, the fundamentals of everything didn't change. What changes is psychology and perception and all that. And things start changing in the market that way. Now, over the past few days, we saw the stock market completely crash. I mean, over 10% drop, which is massive. We saw crypto completely crash. We saw gold and silver go down from like 35 to 30 on silver. Gold went from like 3150 to about 3,000 and change. So there's a lot going on right now. I know it has a lot to do with the tariffs, but a lot of people are wondering, is this something that we should be afraid of or excited about? And that's why we have you, Kirk, here to explain it to us. So thank you very much for being here. We'd love to hear your perspective on the current situation.
Of course, I'm happy to do so. And the answer to your question, is this something we should be worried about? Well, it depends. It depends on what you're in, and it depends on your time horizon, right? So both of those things. Now, when Trump went, nuclear on the tariff program, which shouldn't have been a shock to anybody. I
Hmm.
mean, he campaigned on this, right? It's like he said he was going to do it. And he and Secretary Bessent and Secretary Lutnick all said this is going to be like a hard path for the next 6 months. Trump said, don't even look at the stock market. Why would he say that? We talked about this on the last show, um, because they expected the stock market to get hit hard. So Trump is just encouraging everybody. It's like, just don't look at it. It's going to be great. Now, the left is going haywire.
Yeah.
The globalists are going haywire. Again, just like we talked about, they are going to blame Trump for all of this. But in reality, and Trump said it the other day, he said, we've got to take our medicine, right? And what did he mean by that, right? He meant, you know, the economy was so sick that you have to take your medicine to get better.
Yeah.
And it will get better. So what we all have to realize is that tariffs are not just a mechanism to bring income into our country by having other countries pay the tax to sell to us as Americans. It's a negotiating tool. And the biggest part about all of this is, I mean, good grief, I don't know how I should say the biggest part. We're going to generate a ton of revenue, right? But really, it's equalizing the playing field because over the last 4 or 5 decades, as jobs have been exported overseas, as we've paid an exorbitant amount into some of these ungodly institutions like the World Trade Organization and the World Economic Forum and the IMF and NATO and all these things, right? That people thought these are good things, but we didn't have a say. We didn't have an equivalent say in how they were operated. We just paid an extra amount of money because we're America, right? So Trump is saying, especially with the trade deals and these bilateral and multilateral trade agreements, I just want an equalized playing field. I don't want America to suffer as the rest of the world increases. He said, so what's he going to do? Equalize it. This was the whole concept behind the reciprocal tariffs. So
When do you think, like, on one hand, you're saying that he's doing it to get China to pay more money so we can, make off of that. But isn't China just increasing costs?
well, they're increasing costs and they retaliated when Trump put the tariff on Liberation Day. He put this tariff on China. It said 34% is going to be the new tariff on Chinese imports coming into America. So China retaliated and said, we're going to put 34% tariffs on American goods going into China. Well, if I were Trump and basically he said this, it's like, so what? It's like, how many Chinese people actually buy American goods?
Not many.
Very few. And every American has bought Chinese goods, right?
But
So,
again, when he puts it the other way around, does it not end up just costing us money, or is China the one paying for it?
um, a- some of both,
Okay.
right? Because it is going to cost us more money as But here's where China, in a competitive marketplace, they can't raise their prices so much,
Yes.
right? They just have to actually pay the tax, right? So because if they raise the prices too much, nobody's going to want their stuff. So ultimately, we do pay some extra, but in the end, this is the medicine that Trump talked about. People can't really buy so much American yet because our factories have been dismantled over the last 40 years. They have to be retooled. You have to retrain the workforce. You have to rebuild what has been torn down. That'll take some time, right? So in time, people will buy American, the impacts of higher prices.
In terms of timelines, I mean, yeah, they're saying 6 months, everything's going to be better. Something like that takes years.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be longer than 6 months. Um, I don't know if it's going to be years
Okay.
because some of these places, the factories are already built. They just need to be upgraded, right? So how quickly can they get to that point? It just depends on how quickly they want it. But some of the bigger things that are coming that are going to take years would be like Taiwan Semiconductor building a $500 billion plant in Arizona, right? They're not going to hire Taiwanese citizens. They're going to hire Arizonans, right? So this is, and why did they do that? Because they wanted to avoid the tariffs.
Yeah.
So now we're going to create jobs. This is what is going to make America great again, make America wealthy again, make America healthy again, which you're well on the way of
Oh, yeah.
doing your stuff. Yeah. So here's where Trump upped the ante last night. And he told China, it's like, you slapped a 34% tariff on us. So now we're going to do 50% on Chinese goods.
Wow.
And until you remove your tariff, there's no seat at the negotiating table. We're not going to talk to any of you, right? So he's forcing the issue of compliance using tariff as a negotiating tool, right? So here's where this trade war gets really, really extreme. And now with China, I was reading something by Ray Dalio. He had this amazingly long post on X, but it was really good. So what he was saying is Trump basically putting tariffs on Chinese goods at the moment when China can't afford it. Their economy is in shambles. They're going into a massive inflationary recession, and they're the manufacturer of the world. And us, as the largest consumer of Chinese goods, it's going to deepen their recession. I mean, it could absolutely bankrupt China. So China either they have to face the music somehow. They either have to say, fine, we'll get rid of our tariffs, we will lose the trade war, and try to keep things going, or they can keep fighting and fighting and fighting, saying, no, we want to be the world's reserve currency with our
Yeah.
BRICS nations, you know? So this is the dilemma that China's in. And Trump, in his wisdom, is doing exactly what China does not want him to do, and upping the ante and upping the ante. And because at some point they're going to have to capitulate or else their economy goes haywire. Now, this is where Trump's policies will actually better the whole world
Okay.
because these tariffs are going to come down, the value added taxes are going to come down. And, but in the meantime, the countries that don't comply, it's going to be hard on them.
So
It's,
now with silver, gold, silver specifically, we saw it go down, 15, 16, 17%, whatever it is, from where it was at the 35 to now around 30s. Where are we at with that? I understand my assumption would be that that's happening just because everything is happening and that
yeah,
happens with it. But yes, in a day, nothing changes fundamentally like that.
yeah,
Same thing with everything, really. I mean,
right.
crypto, the stock market, nothing changes by 20% in a day other than our perception. Then we take action and then the market responds. So
Yeah,
this is just a really good opportunity right now to get in because we were talking the other day at 33, 34, go because you're going to see it at 50 or 60. Now you're at 30.
yeah. It's even more go, right? So let's look at the perception of things and what's reality and what's just perception, right? So in the gold and silver market, we have to ask ourselves because people have been calling me all week long. Kirk, you've been saying gold and silver are going to go up and it came down a lot. What gives? It's like in turmoil and turbulence and all this stuff, gold and silver should go up. Yes, it should. Right. And we have to ask ourselves a fundamental question. So Liberation Day happened. The day before, gold and silver were flying. The day after, not so much, right? They started coming down with everything else that was selling off, literally everything else. So why? Did all of a sudden the supply go way up for silver? No. Did the demand come down? No. Do EV manufacturers still need it? Does the solar industry still need it? Does the nuclear industry still need it? Does the military industrial complex still need it? Yes, it's still needed for everything. So fundamentally, nothing changed. What changed was something else, related but unrelated, happened. And that is a more, not even perception, it's more of a reality thing. The stock market is taking it in the chin. They are just getting crushed, crucified. So, so Liberation Day, I think, was on a Wednesday. On Thursday, stock market comes down like 1,900 points in 2 days, right? And then it kept coming down and kept coming down and kept coming down. And a lot of the stock market is traded on margin,
Okay.
right? You've got big hedge funds, you've got these big institutions that, and even individuals that think they know which way the market's going. And if it's going up, they're going to leverage their position so they get a multiplier on it. This is the derivatives market. This is trading on margin. Well, if it goes in the wrong direction, the banks don't want to get stuck, right? Because they basically lent out money so people could operate on margin. So they get a margin call, meaning you have to pay the difference like immediately or they liquidate your position, right? So there was massive amounts of margin calls still happening, right? Because the most that we've seen since COVID, which was like a record-setting time, so this is even more of a record-setting time. What happens if you have to pay up? If you have to cough up money and you don't really have it? Well, just like you and I would, we'd have to sell something, right?
100%.
Yeah. So if you don't have cash, you've got assets somewhere, you're going to sell it to pay off your debts. Well, what do institutions have? And what has gone up dramatically over the last few years, and even over the first quarter of this year? Number one performing assets in the world, gold and silver, right? Both of those were up almost 20% in the first 3 months of this year. Now, annualize that, they're both on pace for an 80% growth year.
Crazy.
So that's tremendous, right? But that's the asset that's grown that people needed to sell. Hedge funds, institutions needed to sell something that was good to pay off what was bad.
Gotcha.
Right. So this is why gold and silver came down with everything else.
That
There's
makes a lot of sense.
yeah, and there's also a fear factor though. When the stock market came crashing down so hard, so quickly, people, human nature, and this is perception part of it, they say, I don't know what to do. Everything's falling apart. I'm just going to sell everything and I'm going to sit in cash, right? And so there was some of that
It's
going
like
on.
the impulsive nature of people.
Yeah. And because when people don't know what to do, they pull in the reins, they hide, right? It's either fight or flight,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people aren't willing to fight with their retirement assets, justifiably so. So they flight, they hide, right? And people sitting in cash throughout history has been how people would just sit on the sidelines. Now, that's a dangerous thing to do right now when banks are undercapitalized, and banks are the ones that might be highly leveraged in all of this market fall. So they might be losing money hand over fist. Is having money in the bank safe? I wouldn't say so. So here's the dilemma that people have. It's like, what do we do? Right? I would say, look at this opportunity. Because fundamentally, nothing changed in the gold and silver market. So buy on the dip, buy low and sell high.
100%.
That's just wisdom. Now, fundamentally, I think something did change on the stock market. So that's more than perception. That is more of a reality. Because when you look at the Dow, when you look at the S&P 500, those aren't just American stock exchanges. It's an exchange that takes global money,
So
right? So is
what is the fundamental change that you see?
tariffs are going to impact countries all over the world. They're going to be strapped for capital. They're going to lose revenue. They're going to lose tax revenue. They're going to lose their companies are going to get hit hard. And so people are not going to invest in literally one of the largest stock markets in the world,
Yep.
right? So that is a fundamental factor. Now, in the short term, Trump's tariffs are going to be somewhat detrimental um, because we haven't retooled, like we talked about. We haven't rebuilt the factories. People aren't buying American. We're not creating a bunch of jobs. So we're still reliant on imports coming in. So when the tariffs are impacted prices, we're going to be paying more. So short term, people are going to have less. This is the medicine that Trump talked about. But in time, give it 6 months, face the music. It's going to be a little bit painful, but at some point, this is going to work. The playing field is going to be leveled. Now, how could this not work? Right? How could Trump's plan backfire? Like what you've seen a lot of the left and a lot of misinformation saying Trump's team is like exodus, making a mass exodus. They're disagreeing with the
Yeah.
whole point, like Bill Ackerman and so forth. Well, the way that it would fail, in my opinion, is if he stopped now, right? Because
He
if
started,
you,
he has to pull through.
yeah, you have to finish what you started because if you don't finish, you don't have the negotiating power. You didn't win the trade war. So
Correct.
what did you accomplish? The massive correction that we saw in the stock market, right? So all you do is lose, lose.
Yep.
So he has to finish to win, win, right? And
I
so
understand.
yeah, so I was reading some research this morning early, and here's where Secretary Bessent is a really smart guy. Um, and he was talking about the excesses that have been built up with the banks, with the leverage, with all these derivatives that are going to have to be paid up. Well, you have to have the markets correct some because it's just too highly leveraged. There's too much debt. So getting rid of those excesses is part of making everything healthy, right? Because I remember in the campaign, Trump was talking about this should have actually been taken care of in 2009. They didn't let a natural market correction happen. In fact, they did the opposite. They just goosed it with a bunch of stimulus money, didn't let the markets correct naturally in a free market system. They just injected a bunch of capital trying to save a system, which it's like I would kind of equate it to like the wilderness, right? And here in Colorado, we have tons of forests and over time, naturally, lightning will hit the forest. You go all the way back to the wild, wild west, right? And you had the Native Americans who loved when a forest would start on fire because it was healthy for the forest. It would get rid of the dead
Correct.
trees, right? And so when the environmentalists said, no, we're not going to burn down these forests, this is a horrible thing to do. You get massive fires like you did in Malibu. You get massive fires that have ravaged Montana and Colorado, right? And California. So it's healthy to get rid of some of this
I
excess, some of
understand.
the
That's a
dead
great
weight.
analogy.
Yeah. And so when you don't allow that to happen naturally, you're going to get something bad that happens. Trump said this should have been taken care of in 2009. It didn't. So part of what he's doing is taking care of something that should have happened under prior
And he's
administration.
just, he kind of looks like the bad guy because he's the one going through it.
Not kinda. He's
Yes.
like totally looking like the bad guy, and people are believing the narrative, right? And he's the brunt of all jokes on late night TV. You've got foreign leaders saying he's going to destroy the global economy. You've got American leaders that are just just talking for like 25 hours straight. And I mean, I don't know what Booker was even thinking, right? What's the point? It's like stop just endlessly yammering on and do something,
Yeah.
right? But they're just blaming, blaming, blaming. Nobody wants to take the blame. All of these politicians were in charge when this bad stuff was happening, but ooh, Trump is a very good victim right now because it's happening. And this is natural. Whenever something breaks or whenever something corrects, whenever something falls, the guy who's in charge or the girl who's in charge is going, the one holding the bag is going to get the blame.
So in terms of where we're at right now, we see what I would call amazing prices over the past few months already, amazing prices for gold and silver. What do you recommend people do at this point in time?
Okay. So this is where it does get really exciting and there's hope in this message, right? Because the gold to silver ratio that we've been talking about for half a year or more, right, is you allocate into the underpriced metal, which is going to therefore outperform as the ratio comes back
Right
to
now, if I'm
historic
not
norms.
mistaken, the ratio is like 1 to 100 or something.
It's over 100 at a historical high.
And it should be 1 to 40.
I'm thinking by the time this is all over, I mean, historically, the ratio should get to 20 to 1.
Well,
In
then there's
2011,
only there's only two options. It's either gold drops by 80% or silver increases by 300%, 400%.
no, there's another option, which is even a better option,
Okay.
right? So in 2011, we had 30 to 1,
Yeah.
right? So I figure we're going to get down there, but let's just say 40. I'd love to underpromise and overdeliver. So how do you get that ratio to compress? Either gold comes down or silver goes up. Or the third option that wasn't just discussed, gold goes up and silver goes up faster. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't think gold is going to come down. I don't think gold's a bad investment. I think gold's a great investment because central banks are buying it. As of yesterday, China, it came out, has resumed its massive purchasing of gold. Massive, right? So the only country that is actually purchasing more per capita basically is Poland, right? So they're acquiring gold at the central bank level because they know that the system's broken and they need something tangible to back up their currency. So gold is going to continue to go up. Silver is just going to outperform because it's not that the ratio is magic. It's that the ratio just happens.
It's
Historic,
historical.
yeah, it's a pattern, it's a trend, and it's going to come down. Now, where it ends is anybody's guess, right? But it's 60 to 1. Well, coming off of 100, that's a 40% difference, right? It's like, sweet. This is going to be incredible. If we're into silver right now, and even at 60 to 1, we just minus our, what we have is an 8% cost of ownership when you purchase, 0% when you liquidate. So if you get a 40% overgrowth in silver, you sell it to go into gold, well, you've got 32% more ounces of free gold, basically. I mean, just rough math. Well, what about when it gets to 40 to 1? Well, now you're looking at it like a 60% increase. So if you get down to 20 to 1, oh my goodness.
Thing.
I mean, that's an insane number,
Yeah.
right? Because so and once you get to the new ratio, going from 60 to 1 to 30 to 1 is half, which means you could double your ounces of gold. So
Listen,
so
it's exciting. It's exciting
it
stuff.
is
I just see it as a really big opportunity. And again,
yeah.
it doesn't happen in a day or a week, but for those that have the ability, and this would be my just on a personal level for anybody watching. If you have the ability to put something on the side and invest and just let it be there, I think you're going to end up in a really, really good position over time.
I agree. I mean, it's not that I'm
It's not
not
something
God.
you're
I don't
daydreaming,
control the
you know?
markets, but I'm looking at the trends and the fundamentals that cause those trends.
Yeah.
And you're right. I've done a ratio trade 4 times in my career since 2002 when I started. So that's on average maybe once every 5 years.
Okay.
The last one that we had was in 2011. So we're due for a ratio trade. Right. And so I would, and the reason why it hasn't happened is because the markets have been goosed with stimulus money so much so that there was imbalance everywhere. But now that's correcting. So I would take advantage of these trends rather than these trends taking advantage of you. and go into safety. I mean, that's what everybody wants. Everybody, I don't care how old you are, how young you are, what your status in life is. You could be rich or poor. Everybody wants to have safety and growth, or safety or growth, I should say. But when you can get both of those at the same time,
Yeah.
it's an incredible story. And that's basically where we are.
In terms of simplifying the process, obviously everybody can use the link in the description below to book a free consultation with Kirk and his team. But once they do that, can you just explain the simplicity of the process so people
Mhm.
get intimidated by like, oh, this is a big deal?
Yeah. Either you call the number 720-605-3900, just say Jason sent you, or you fill out the form that you just mentioned. That process, you'll talk to one of my schedulers. They'll ask you a few questions. What did Jason Kirk say that caused you to want to reach out? And then we'll set you up with an appointment with one of my consultants to dive in deep into your concerns. What are your dreams? What are your fears? Do you want income? Do you want growth? What do you have? Is it an IRA, non-IRA, right? They'll ask those questions and then map out a strategy for success, that says, okay, let's use precious metals to hedge some of your paper assets, right? So that's the process. And so our goal is to equip you with that knowledge. Now, at that point, you can either say, yeah, Kirk, let's do exactly what you're doing. That sounds amazing. Or they could say, go pound sand, take a long walk off a short pier. I'm not interested. I don't like what you said. It's okay because it's your money. It's not ours. Our goal is to equip with all the knowledge and wisdom that we have so you can make a wise decision. And
100%.
that's the process. I mean, it is so easy, so simple because we've got so many people calling. It's not like a high pressure used car salesman thing. It's like, honestly, I care because I want to help people, but the decision is yours. In that case, I don't care. You have to do what's best for you and what you want to do, and we'll help you once you decide.
I love it. I love it. For everybody watching, again, there is a massive opportunity right now. Take it while it lasts. Link in the description below. Fill out that form for a free consultation. Kirk, if you could repeat that number one more time for anybody who wants to call in.
You bet. 720-605-3900.
Beautiful. Just let them know that you watch this. We sense you're interested in moving forward. They will take very, very good care of you, like they do with us and all of our people. So again, Kirk, thank you very much for just giving us your time as usual. We are going to be having a break in these segments because I'm going on tour. But thank you. I look forward to seeing where silver specifically is going to be in a couple months from today. And we'll always be in touch on a personal level to communicate.
It'll be so great. Have a great trip.
Thank you, man.
You bet.